Welcome back, everyone, to our regular viewers, and thank you for joining us for the second episode of our third season. If you are new to our podcast, a new peer ally, or new to the workforce, we're so glad that we found you. This podcast is for behavioral health clients and consumers, advocates, allies, peer support workers, community health workers, and community stakeholders, where we talk about advocacy, recovery, peer support, and provide education related to legislative changes to statewide policy to empower you as a client, consumer, or ally to lift up your voice as a stakeholder in the public behavioral health system. With me today is my wonderful Access California program teammate.
I'm Jocelyn.
And we also have the pleasure of visiting with one of our Access California local level entities, or LLEs for short, Thomas Beam and Rosie Diaz from Peer Recovery Services.
Hi.
Hello, good morning.
And so today we'll be discussing the value of the peer experience in the workforce and hearing from both Thomas and Rosie about their experience in navigating the workforce and lifting themselves into peer leadership roles within this episode, from lived experience to leadership, stories from peer leaders.
Okay, but before we jump into that, we'd love just to get to know you a little bit more. So could each of you share just what is one small thing in your daily life that consistently brings you joy?
Go ahead.
Okay, so I think one thing for me that I do in my day-to-day life that brings me joy is coming to work, which is weird, right? Because like how many people can actually say they love going to their job? I've had jobs in the past where like, oh my God, I hated going to work. But this job, I love coming here every single day and, being able to engage with our members and just doing something as simple as serving them a cup of coffee, you know, um, um, can make a big impact, in their lives. Having a conversation with them, having a one-on-one with someone who's having a bad day, and just making a difference for them in that moment. That is one thing that brings me joy. Mhm.
For me, it's when I wake up in the morning and I realize that I am free.
Mhm.
And the reason I say that is that I spent a lot of years in prison, which I think we'll talk about in the next sentence or the next question. But during that time, I didn't think I was ever going to get out of prison because I had a couple of life sentences. And so now, when I wake up in the morning and I have the ability to do what I want when I want or think what I want, it does bring me joy. To be honest with you, I had the same answer Rosie had, but she got there before I did.
Well, you two are such an impactful and um, incredible team there serving in the Stockton area where you're at. And I know that, Rosie, that cup of coffee, it does make such a huge impact when, for some of us to even get to the spot, to the community center, to actually be with people can take a lot out of us. And so I really love hearing that you have that experience and that the work is so meaningful to you in that way that you can bring that and add that hope to another individual's day. And Thomas, we really are looking forward to hearing more about your story. Thank you so much for opening up and sharing that piece of what is bringing you joy with your freedom and what that means to you.
Mhm.
Um, and so let's go ahead and look at that. Can you share a little bit about your story, what your lived experiences have shaped who you are today, and how did those experiences first connect you to the peer workforce?
Sure. I spent most of my adult life uh, with an attitude, with a lot of ambition, and all I really wanted to do was have money and power, and that's what I lived my life for. I didn't really think of other people. I mean, obviously I had a family, I had children and stuff, and I felt I loved them, but my goals and my ambitions of life was just to get ahead, to get money, to get power, and it didn't really matter who I stepped on to do that. When you're in the corporate world, I was a chief financial officer. I was also a chief executive officer. But in that kind of upper level management, there's a lot of cutthroat stuff that goes on. And if you're not ambitious and cutthroat yourself, you just don't get ahead. And I always coveted what other people had, cars and boats and houses and all that stuff. So those are all things that I went after. And it ultimately caused me to cause my values to not be in a place where they should have been. They were all the things that I thought were true in life were all lies. And I didn't realize it until I was facing 2 life sentences in prison. And it was at that time that I realized that the way I was living and the way my mind thought things were right were all lies. My value system was bad. And there was a nexus in there where those values started to change, and I stopped being self-centered and started being other people-centered. So during this time, those 24 years is how long I spent in prison. During that time, I learned how to help people. I became a certified peer literacy mentor, helped hundreds of men get their GEDs or high school diplomas. I developed support groups like anger management, breaking barriers, other types of self-help groups, as well as 12-step programs. And some of those are still being taught in the prison system today, actually. But that whole process helped me change the way I felt about how I should treat people. Not only treat people, but see people and try and understand people, who they are. Because a lot of people had been judging me based on my behavior. Uh, and I realized that that's not what we do because we're not what we did. We're who we are based on what we did. I mean, as far as how we learned from those things, right? So when I finally got out in 2022, I was 70 years old and I didn't have anything because I had lost everything during all that time. But I did have a desire to help people. So I started going to school to become a drug abuse counselor. And during that process, I started interning here because that was part of the practicum as far as classes go. And when I started uh, interning here, I realized that this is so much different helping people. Because, like I said before, I had the same answer Rosie had, that joy about helping people. Because during all that time in prison, and since I've been out of prison, seeing people smile and grow and learn how to change the way they think about things, seeing all that stuff just brings me joy. I was in the hospital a couple of weeks ago, and when I got out and I came back to work, many of the members actually made me cards. They have not bought me cards, but made me cards. And how do you not have joy from that? Kind of emotional, I'm sorry. But so those values change. And that's how I started, instead of working towards a substance abuse counselor, even though I am a registered substance abuse counselor. I'm also a certified peer support person. And now both of us are in a lead position, which I think we'll talk about in a minute. But the point is that helping people understand uh, and how to navigate their way to better mental health and better in recovery from substance use is just something that's really important to me. And the best way to do it is be able to use my lived experience on how I was able to overcome them and share that with them, not advise them or tell them what to do, but share that kind of stuff with them to where they might be able to learn from it. Plus, be a model. And that was one of the things I lacked so much in my life is not being a model for other people, not being somebody other people can look up to. And that's what we are today. That's what we do. How we live our lives and how we help people, other people learn and grow from that.
Thank you, Thomas, for sharing that. Um, so for me, a little bit about my story. Started some years back. I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life as far as a career. So, wanting to follow in my mom's footsteps. She's a retired substance abuse counselor. So I decided I wanted to pursue that. And during the whole time me going to school, I didn't struggle with addiction. I didn't struggle with mental health challenges. But sometime later, something happened in my life that affected me a lot, right? And it did affect my mental health, and it eventually led me to using unhealthy coping skills because I didn't want to face what I was going through. I didn't want to feel what I was experiencing. And there was a lot of shame that came with that. I didn't ask for help. I didn't ask for support. I found myself in a deep, dark hole that I eventually got myself out of. That's when I realized how resilient I am. And so moving forward, struggling with my own mental health challenges, my own struggles with addiction, um, I found myself here at the Wellness Center doing my internship hours for my substance abuse counselor requirements. Okay. And I realized like my lived experience is nothing to be ashamed of. There's value to my lived experience. And I think I had to go through that to be where I am in this position today, to go through those experiences that now allow me to connect with our members on a different level. And I'm proud of that. I'm not ashamed of that anymore. It's given me so much more, I guess, empathy or compassion and being able to relate to them, and that's very important to me.
Thank you both so much for sharing your transparency and vulnerability with your stories. It's just a blessing for us to know you and to know more of your stories. And I know it is for your clients and your members as well. Yeah, there's just a level of expertise that can really only come from that lived experience. And
I mean, I think it's something, sorry to interrupt, but I think it's something that you can't get that from a book, So.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know that's a huge asset that you bring to your work. So now that you guys are both at Peer Recovery Services, can you just share a little bit more about the organization, your team, and then just what your role looks like from day to day?
Okay, I think I have this one. Uh, we are a community-based organization, peer run, 100% peer run in San Joaquin County. Uh, we offer free at this particular point, and remember with Prop 1 coming up and the budget cuts and things like that, some of this stuff is changing. But what we've done for the last 10 years is offer free support groups and classes and resources for people suffering from mental health issues or substance use issues. We also offer one-on-one coaching. We have a full wellness center here. We have two of them right now, actually, one here and one in Lodi. And each center has a common room where we offer coffee and snacks and socialization. Right now we run 40 groups a week between the two centers that deal in everything from anger management to taking action, which deals with the dimensions of wellness. We have independent living skills, just a variety of groups to help people um, learn different types of coping skills. A lot of them are evidence-based, based on cognitive behavioral therapy principles. And the reason those things are important is because it helps them be able to learn how to change the way they think. Because we know that if you change the way you think, change the way you feel, and you can change your behavior based on that circle right there. So that's what our primary focus is right now. Just continue to have our doors open and have our members come in. And we've actually grown many fond relationships with many of them. Obviously, we have our ups and downs. We're not in the best area of town, and there are some people with some of the mental health issues have our sign just filled out. Some people with mental health issues have some aggression problems that we have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. But for the most part, it's a blessing to have organizations like this in California. And that's one of the main reasons why we do what we do and are affiliated with you folks so that we can keep working at those things. Oh, as far as our team goes, Rosie and I are the leads for both centers. I'm actually the lead in Lodi, and Rosie's the lead here in Stockton. But the way our organization works, it doesn't matter which center we're in, we're still the lead. The coaches come to us, and we deal with the day-to-day issues. We do the conflict de-escalations when we have member problems or have to provide some sort of disciplinary action or something like that. But our main thing is to make sure our coaches have enough support so that they can do their jobs. Being on the front line is very important. And and that's one thing that I miss a lot, not being able to do as many groups as I used to do before.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Yeah. But I will still set time aside if a member comes in and needs to do a one-on-one. And if they request to have the one-on-one with me, I will stop what I'm doing, to give that member my time and my attention. There are other services that we provide here at our organization, such as like transportation to the food bank. I think that's a real, I guess, nice service to be able to provide for our members. What else?
Bus passes.
We provide bus passes. We have a monthly members lunch, which is always a nice time. Um, I also think like being able to be a bridge between us and other resources, to help members find other things that are out there in the community that can be helpful for them as well. Because sometimes a lot of our members don't know what's out there, what other free services that are out there for them, you know. So it's always nice to be able to tell them about another organization that they can that can be useful for them.
Sounds like you're a useful hub of resources for the communities that you serve. And you each have talked about, um, Rosie, you were just talking about being a bridge to services. Thomas, you talked about longstanding relationships that you have built over the years that you have been with the organization. Something that we talked about recently was how long you've been with the organization and how you started out and getting to where you are now in these leadership roles. So, can you share what were some of those key turning points or moments that moved you from the lived experience that you all have and that connects you with your community members into peer leadership? And what was that process like, or what were the steps involved in that process?
You want to start this one?
No, we
Okay.
agreed you would go first.
Yes, I'm gonna go first. Well, I do want to say this, that when I start talking, Rosie's gonna say I was first because she's she was leader, she was in leads before I was. But both both of us started at the same time. We actually started as interns at the same time. That was in the beginning of September of 23. And through that 6 month period, I think is when both of us decided that instead of really aggressively pursuing substance abuse counselor, that would be more important to work with members as peers. So we were hired, both of us were hired in December. Actually, you were promoted before then. I'm sorry. Or no, she was hired 2 weeks before me. So after that semester was over, we were both hired basically, and we started working, doing groups as peers. And it's something that I really enjoy. As I said before, I've been doing groups for a lot of years because I spent at least 20 of those 24 years, I did support groups, different types. So I was already used to and understanding how groups work. I've already developed curriculum and but learning how to listen to people, especially people who have some mental health challenges, and empathizing with them in a non-judgmental way was something that I was able to learn and it helped me learn. So I keep saying we, but as I progressed and I continue to do groups, in organizations like this, chances for advancement are not numerous. There's only two lead positions, and so if somebody's already in those lead positions, your chances as a coach to go into them is pretty minimal. But and it wasn't like I was trying to become a lead when I started. My goal, I mean, I'm 74 now. My goal was to help people until it was time to really retire and go from there. But because both of us had has an attitude that we always try and do the best that we can possibly do. And we're always there. Our main goal is to the members, and our secondary goal is to the organization, and our tertiary goal would be to ourselves. But if we always are putting those other two things first, people notice that because our performance shows that. So when opportunities started to rise, uh, we were the ones that they looked at. They looked at Rosie first. Actually, Rosie got called for the Cal Voices or the Access California grant. She was supposed to be the lead person on it. And I wasn't even considered at that particular time. But she decided she needs some help, so she convinced them to bring me on board. So if it wasn't for her, I probably wouldn't even be sitting here right now. That's probably not true, but you understand what I'm saying, though. We've always been a team. During that whole time we were interning, and even when we were doing groups, our groups were together. So we always work groups together. We've always been a team in that kind of situation. So when it came time to her being promoted and me being promoted, obviously she's still young. So career choices right now are important because building your resume and being able to put that kind of stuff on your resume is important for her. So that choice is fairly easy for her. Less important for me because I'm not trying to build a career path because I've maybe got 4 or 5 years left before I'm not going to do this anymore, or at least not going to work as hard. So, uh, but I realized when it came time to move into the leadership role, because here, when you move into a lead position, you don't get to do groups anymore.
Yeah.
That was a determinant for me. I did not want to stop doing groups because that's why I started this was so that I can work with the members on one-on-one. I wanted to be a first responder. But then I realized during this process that I will if I can take what I have and ability to teach in the group and teach that to other coaches so that they can do that kind of work, that is just as much benefiting the members as me doing the actual work itself. And I was able to keep two groups when when I moved into the lead position. So uh, that's why I went into it because I wanted to be able to help other people and I wanted to be able to make sure that peer recovery services had the best, in my opinion, the best coaches possible that are helping our members.
Mhm.
You want to add anything to that for you?
Um, yeah, I mean, I think, Thomas, he said it really well, especially, the part where he mentioned, leadership, was something I had never considered. Being a coach, was enough for me. But then, the lead position opened up for our Manteca Center. And I thought, why not? Let me just apply. And I wasn't here for very long. Do you remember? Maybe about a year
Yeah.
into me being here. So, I thought, what the heck? Let me just apply and try, see what happens. Um, but I didn't get it at first. So that was a little disappointing, right?
And both of us actually applied that. Neither
Yeah.
one of us got it. They hired somebody from outside
Yeah.
who wasn't even a coach.
Um, so so then the position opened up again sometime later for the Manteca lead. And I think, did I apply again? Well, yeah, I did apply again. And I ended up, someone had asked me, are you gonna apply for the position again? And one of the staff here, and I said, no, I don't think I'm gonna try again. And that person had told me, I think you should. You'll be great. And so then I did. So that support, that I was receiving from the staff helped me build my confidence and so here I am now, a lead. Oh yeah.
Not only a lead, but a lead of our busiest hub.
Yes.
This place gets crazy sometimes.
I can only imagine. Yeah. You two are such a powerful duo together, and we've known that since we met you 2 years ago at our first event. And it's really neat just to see the parallel paths that you've been on in your professional journey and the way that you're able to encourage each other and strengthen each other and grow together through that. But we know it's not an easy path. So, what are some barriers that you faced along the way? And how did your lived experience both challenge and strengthen you in navigating those?
For me, some of the barriers I faced were of my own making. Many of it was prejudices that I might have that I had that I didn't even realize I had that I thought I had gotten over with. The way that I thought about people, homeless people, for example, or things like that, because I just didn't have enough education in my mind to understand. So all those things can be big barriers to try and help people. Because if I've already prejudged somebody when I'm talking to them, I'm not going to be very much help because I've already determined that maybe my help won't even be effective with them. So those are some of the biggest barriers that I had to face is to learn to be non-judgmental, even if I had certain prejudices or confirmation biases or anything like that I need to be able to think that process through and not let that determine how I treat people. That's the main barrier. Me being in prison, uh, I thought was going to be a big barrier, and it has been. To be honest with you, I have been turned down from many jobs because of that, but not this one. And that's probably because the good Lord wanted me to have this one. I don't know. But the point is that barrier that I thought it was going to be actually was not a barrier at all. It actually uh, helped people relate to me better, especially people who have been just as impacted. Them being able to see what I've been able to accomplish in the 3 years since I've been out, inspired them to work harder and not give up on things. So, but that's really all the barriers I've faced. How about you?
I think for me, in the beginning, one of the barriers I faced was not trusting my own voice and not seeing the value in my lived experience. If that makes sense. Um, I think those were some of the barriers for me. Um, not not knowing that it's okay to share, this lived experience because when you're going to school, for me, you learn that you don't share about your own life experiences. You allow them to share, but it's so much different in peer support. Um, and I think that's one of the many great things about peer support, is being able to share those experiences. And um, I think speaking up, even when it feels uncomfortable, it's also very important because it can help someone. Um, so I think that was a barrier for me. Also, maybe emotional challenges, learning not to like to control those emotions when you're listening to someone else share. Um, like I remember one time having a member share something with me and she was crying and I wanted to cry with her, but I'm, just trying to be strong and also reminding myself of self-care, you know, um, I think is also a really important thing. Um, so, but I think, one of the strengths for me now is overcoming those barriers. Yeah.
Yeah, both of your stories and your lived experience speaks to that resilience that you each talked about earlier. And I know there are folks who are going to be listening who do feel your stories and that it resonates with them and can see themselves in you and can look ahead and see the possibility for themselves if they're at a place where they're feeling like that, questioning themselves, like you said, Rosie, and wondering how they're going to find themselves in a leadership role like each of you have. And so with both of your responses, you both kind of touched on this a little bit, but can you share what skills, supports, or even personal shifts that have helped you grow into leadership? And how did your lived experience become an asset rather than something to overcome?
But for me, the whole time I've been here, it's all about training. I mean, I was in college, so I ended up earning my AA in psychology, AA in arts, humanities, and social sciences, and my certificate as a substance abuse counselor. In addition to that, obviously the training as a peer support specialist, and all the we're constantly taking CEUs. I have to take CEUs for the peer support specialist position, as well as for they've raised the bar on the substance abuse counselor to where I got to do 20 CEUs a semester or a year on that. So it's just constant training, but it's not just the formal training that we get by doing all that stuff. It's always having a hunger for knowledge and understanding. So I'm always on the lookout for things that I might be able to pass on, whether I'm looking at a Psychology Today website or I'm going to another website called Take the Escalator, which has many evidence-based group topics and forums on it, or just going through books like this right here on grief and seeing how we can pass this information on to our members. So I think I lost track of where the question was, but when it comes to that kind of our learning and how we fit the lived experience into that is as soon when I first started and as soon as I shared my story. Now we don't Rosie talked about how when we're in school that we're taught as a counselor, we're taught not to share personal information. And that's one of the other reason that I had actually forgotten why I liked the peer support because I enjoy that relatability. It's not that I sit down and tell everybody my whole story, but whenever they're talking about something and I can share a story of how I was able to deal with that. So when I was able to realize how that worked, that's what really showed me how lived experience makes a difference. I'm not boring them with who I was and how I got here. I'm able to share, well, I went through that and this is how I overcame it. That's the important part about lived experience.
Mhm.
I hope I got everything in the question.
Yeah.
Your turn.
Yeah, no, I feel like, so far in everything that we've shared, we kind of have already answered this question. Um, how I talked about my lived experience being something that like maybe I was ashamed of, but now knowing, um, like I mentioned, there's value to that lived experience and using it as a way to help other people who are seeking support and recovery. Um, I think it's such a great thing to be able to no longer have shame in that, but to use it for the good of, for others, to be able to, um, I guess, share what I did to overcome my challenges in the past. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And looking back at your journeys, if you could go back and talk to yourself at the very beginning of this journey, what would you say to yourself?
Uh, Good job. No, I would just say to myself, just keep moving forward. Keep moving forward. This is where you need to be. This is where I don't know how else to put it. This is where you need to be. You just keep moving forward. You just keep helping people one of the main promises I made myself when I got out of prison, which by the way, I had to go to the board of prison terms and go through a 3-hour interview between 3 different commissioners before they allowed me to come out. And they dealt with my whole life, criminal history, everything. But one of the things that I had told them and what I'm really committed to is that for the rest of my life, part of my living amends is to always help people. And that's an important part to me. And that's what I would tell myself. Remember what your goal is in life today.
I think for me, if I could go back and talk to myself at the beginning of my journey, I would say trust yourself. You don't have to know all the answers to be an effective leader, and never lose sight of the why you started.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
Cool. That's good.
Thank you.
I'm inspired.
Well, thank you both. You both are so inspiring, and I know that you're a gem to the community members in Manteca and everywhere where your reach connects with individuals. And yes, good job. You're doing great. We love being able to partner with you in this way, and learn from each of you as well along the way. Um, so we want to hear from you. What do you have going on in Stockton looking ahead? Um, what are your program updates? What can you share with the community right now?
Well, what there's a lot going on. Program updates. We're getting ready on to start on a new contract with BHS that's going to change the way we have groups. We still don't know exactly how that's going to work right now, so I'll be happy to keep you updated as we find out. But we're going to become more of a mobile place. Instead of having all the groups here in the Stockton office, we're going to be going out to BHS locations to hold groups. But more importantly than that, and something that's a lot more fun, is that Mental Health Awareness Month is coming up next month. And we every year sponsor a mental health walk. And in this mental health walk, many members come, and last year we had about 50. We're looking for 50 to 75 this year. And we spend a couple weeks prior to that making poster boards in uh, mental health awareness. As we're walking, members holler out, what do they holler?
Last year it was be kind to your mind.
Be kind to your mind. And our teachers say mental health awareness on them. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And we walk about a mile, and we walk over in front of BHS, Behavioral Health Services, because we're right across the street. And right across from us is a place called the Rose Garden. And it's an area it's a nice garden area with a little pond there. But it used to be where the asylum was. A lockdown facility that was been there since the 1800s. It's no longer there. But there's a memorial stone there where it memorializes all the anonymous people who were part of that patients of the asylum when they died, where they were buried. So normally we stop over there. This year I'm giving a little speech about how it's important that their voices are heard, that these folks, even though they are unidentified, their voices, because of this memorial and because of everything that we're doing now, their voices are still being heard in this community. And your voices can be heard too. All you got to do is get them out there, and that's what we're there to help them do. And it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. As we're walking, members are calling out different slogans. Mental health. We've all got mental health or something like that because everybody has mental health. whether you have issues with it or not might be different, but we've all got it.
Yeah,
But
we're all looking forward to this event.
yeah, we provide food, and I think we got a snow cone truck coming,
Oh yeah,
or shaved ice, I guess it's called, not snow cones.
looking forward to that part.
Yeah.
mostly.
Yeah, you guys are welcome to come if you like.
Thank you.
Yeah, sounds like an incredible event. And I think I'd like to say to the listeners too, if you're in the Central Valley, get connected with Peer Recovery Services. Sounds like there's a lot to get involved with there and this event in particular.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So thank you both so much for being here today and sharing your stories, being so transparent with us. This has been great to hear from you. We also just want to share a little bit about what's going on our end here. We have some events coming up. Our next policy update webinar will be taking place on May 14th. That's a great place to just kind of hear what's going on with the current legislation in the state of California, get some updates. We also have a training webinar coming up on May 19th with some special guests from Peer Voices United. And then starting in August, we're going to be beginning our regional events again. So we'll be traveling to your region. So keep an eye out for those. And we'd love to see you at those events. And of course, follow this podcast. We might put out some call to action from time to time and share this with your friends, family, anyone else that wants to learn more about peer support, recovery, and advocacy. So thank you for being here. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to connecting with you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Right,
Thank
bye.
you so much for joining us. We'll see you soon.
See you soon.
See you soon.